Let me ask you a question. What if government services were only open when you were at work? Now, for millions of people, that's not a hypothetical. It's their reality. So today, we're going to dive into a simple but pretty brilliant innovation from rural Indonesia that solved this exact problem by creating a night government. And honestly, it's a blueprint the rest of the world could learn from. Okay, so imagine this choice. You can either earn a day's wage to feed your family, or you can travel for hours to get an ID card and come home with absolutely nothing to show for it. Well, for thousands of farmers in rural Indonesia, this isn't some tough choice, it's just Tuesday.
You see, for the farmers and workers in the Bulukumba Regency of Indonesia, getting simple paperwork done comes with a really, really high price. And it's not about the fee for the document itself. It's about the lost wages. It's a price that many people just can't afford to pay.
To really put this into perspective, we're talking about the Herlang Sub-district. It's home to about 29,500 people, and with a GDP per capita of just over $2,600, losing even one single day's wage is a huge financial hit. And that right there, that economic reality, is the absolute key to understanding why a simple trip to a government office is a luxury.
And look, this isn't just, an inconvenience. It's a massive systemic barrier. The local government actually came up with a name for it that just hits the nail on the head: time poverty. So what exactly is time poverty? Well, it's what happens when essential services run on a typical 9-to-5 clock. But the very people who need those services the most are working from sunrise to sunset. It creates this cruel irony where the hardest working citizens are basically locked out of the system that's supposed to be there to support them.
And this number, wow. It really shows you just how widespread this problem is. A massive 37% of the local economy in Herlang depends on agriculture and fisheries. Think about that. Over a third of the entire population is working from sunup to sundown, which makes a daytime trip to a government office pretty much impossible.
So what you end up with is something the source calls a service desert. And that's such a powerful way to put it, right? You can just picture it, this landscape where essential government support is totally out of reach for the people who form the very backbone of the community's economy.
All right, so how on earth do you solve a problem this big, this fundamental? Well, you don't ask the people to change their lives. You ask the government to change its hours.
And you know what? It all started with this really powerful shift in thinking, this idea they called administrative empathy. It's a simple idea, but it's profound. Instead of blaming people for not showing up, the government actually recognized its own role in creating the problem. That single shift, from blame to empathy, was the engine for the entire solution. In this comparison right here, it just lays it all out perfectly. The POLWAN model, which stands for Nighttime Public Service, just flips the old system on its head. Those rigid 8 to 4 hours, they become flexible evening shifts. That one single central office, it becomes a bunch of mobile outposts right there in the local villages. Basically, they decided to run on the community's clock, not the bureaucracy's clock.
Okay, the idea is genius, for sure. But how did they actually pull it off? How did they make this happen on the ground?
Well, they didn't just jump in blind. They were really smart about it, rolling it out in 3 clear phases. First, they did their homework. They diagnosed the problem by mapping out exactly which villages were being left behind. Then they launched a pilot program, setting up these nighttime outposts with digital tools. And only after they proved it worked did they scale it up, giving it a real budget and making it official policy. And here's the thing, this wasn't some top-down command from on high. It was a real team effort. The sub-district office was the nerve center, sure, but the village authorities provided the actual spaces. Local police made sure everything was secure, and community leaders were the ones who got the word out. It's a fantastic model of how government can work with the people.
And of course, technology was the secret sauce that made it all work so well. Instead of lugging around piles of paperwork, officers used a mobile platform called SInovik. This let them securely access and update the central government database right there from the remote villages in real time. And that single tech leap slashed document processing time from 3 days down to just 24 hours.
So, the big question, did all this effort actually pay off? Well, let's just say the numbers speak for themselves.
Get this, since 2021, POLWAN has served over 4,500 rural residents. And remember, these are people who were almost completely cut off from these services before.
And what did the public think? An absolutely staggering 92% approval rating. That is so much more than a statistic. That's the sound of thousands of people feeling seen, feeling valued. And maybe for the first time, trusting their government.
You know, what might be the most incredible part of this whole story is how they funded it. This entire program is totally self-reliant. It's funded 100% by domestic resources. No foreign loans, no outside aid. 70% comes right from the sub-district's own budget. This means the model isn't just effective, it's sustainable, and other places can actually copy it.
And look, this is bigger than just one community. This local success story is actually hitting major global goals. It directly supports the UN's Sustainable Development Goals by reducing inequality and making sure everyone has a legal identity. In real-world terms, it means they've helped keep their community more fair and improve the overall quality of life, all by starting with one simple, empathetic idea.
So, with all this success, what can other cities, other regions, other countries learn from POLWAN?
So if another town wanted to do this, what's the blueprint? Well, it really comes down to 3 big takeaways. First, sync with the local clock. Stop making people adapt to the bureaucracy. Make the bureaucracy adapt to the people. Second, be resource-light but tech-heavy. Don't build expensive new offices. Use portable tech and spaces that already exist. And third, remember that governance is a network. Real power comes from combining formal authority with that grassroots community trust.
Which kind of leaves us with this one last thought. The POLWAN project didn't start with a huge budget or some groundbreaking new technology. It started with a simple change in perspective, empathy. So the question for you, for me, for all of us is, what problems in our own backyards could we solve if we just started there?